Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
The information contained within this podcast does not consider your personal circumstances and is of a general nature only. You should not act on it without first obtaining professional financial advice specific to your circumstances.
Paul Atherton is an ex-Wall Street advisor on a mission to help young people win back their financial power, wealth and security. He does this by helping them understand the hidden world of finance, risk and investments, helps them figure out how it impacts them, and to seize the opportunities to make it work to their advantage. This is Paul Street Journal. I'm here this morning with Paul Atherton. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm really well, Tim. Thanks.
It's good to hear. I'm wondering, mostly, how can I become the master of my money?
Well, the master.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be a slave of your money, do you?
No. And it has felt that way for some time.
Yeah, I think most people feel that. It's a shame. Yeah, I think everybody wants enough money that they don't have to think about it.
And it's nice. I've been in those situations sometimes, and then, something happens, and then you kind of feel like you're a slave to the system again.
Well, I think my first warning to you is that I've seen people that have earned multi-million, tens of millions a year, who are more slaves to money than yourself, Tim. So it's not just about how much money you have or you earn. Anyway, so what do we want to do? Let's think about this. So let's get some of I call this belts and braces stuff. What are the tips for becoming the master of your money? Well, first of all, I think that, I built a little bit of a pyramid of this. So where to look at first, like what are the first basics and then how to build upon it. So the first thing is get an understanding of your budget and your spending. And I think half your audience probably just tuned out then. And I understand why, because it is snoozer territory. Oh, okay, cut back on my coffees. And as my wife would say, I'd rather not live than have my morning coffee. And I understand that, and I believe it too, by the way. This is not, you don't cut lattes to become a millionaire. It just doesn't happen.
Or cut avocados to afford a house.
Yeah, it's complete bollocks. So you need to get an understanding of, but you do need, at a basic level, let's think about it, right? If you're going to become wealthy, but you have no grip of your budget, does that happen? No. If your spending is out of control, do you become very, very wealthy? No. Right? So you need, and again, there are people that earn an awful lot of money that have terrible, terrible finances because they don't have a grip of their budget. It's like the first level of maturity. But I'm not saying build a spreadsheet and manage every penny, because then it's equivalent to the guys who say that, to be fit, you need to work out 5 hours a day. 5 hours feeling terrible, running and jogging and, doing all the rest of that. And then the rest of the day feeling awful from doing it. And so budgeting to every last penny is just a great way to suck all the enjoyment out of life. But there are ways to do it. I just go with the 80-20 rule. You can quickly sit down and go over your budget. Just think about what are the largest expenses? Well, it's your house or you're renting. So it's your home. And then the next thing is food. And then there will be like ancillaries like car and utilities and your phone and data and all that stuff. And you quickly add it up. You should get a really good sense. And then, a good rule of thumb, by the way, is you spend about a quarter of your income on your rent or your mortgage. So if you spend $1,000 a month on your mortgage or on your rent, if that's how much coming out of, you probably should have a budget of around $4,000. Yeah, that's probably what you're spending. That's a pretty reasonable rule of thumb. And it may or may not apply to you. You may be a very big spender. You may go out and spend a lot, and that, so that will depend on that's highly individualistic, but it's a good rule of thumb. But it doesn't take long to do an 80-20 rule on your own budget. And then put a fudge factor in there. Put a couple of $100 here and there. Just like, okay, probably things I've forgotten. You know what I do? I think I've told you this before, Tim. I have a budget. I do it once a year. Put it on so it gives me a rough idea of how much we spend as a family. I don't look at it for a year. But then I go back and I look at it and I just go, and I leave it open on my spreadsheet on my computer. I leave it open for a week. And I go back. I just check it casually. It's not a big deal. And I look at it and I say, oh, do you know what? I have Netflix on here, but I realized I also signed up for Stan and I signed up for this. Forgot that. Or maybe we haven't really put in how much entertainment we do. Or maybe I've cut back on certain things. Or maybe I should. And that's really just, it's basic bells and braces stuff. Shouldn't be overwhelmed by it. If you're overwhelmed by it, I think it's highlighting probably a problem with your spending, and you really need to get that. Before you start investing, before you start trying to make those millions of dollars, you really need to get that basic level first. Now, the second part of the budgeting and saving, and my favorite part, is remember the budgets have two sides. They have expenses and they have income. This is where I sort of diverge from many financial advisors who tell you, don't spend $4 here, cut back on that latte. And I go, no. Look at your income side. Where are you earning your money? You can earn more money, right? One good negotiation with your boss can be worth, I don't know, tens of lattes a day. So learn those skills, and there are many. I mean, we've covered them on podcasts before, Tim, and perhaps we should do more. But work on the income side of your balance sheet, not just on the expense side. Work on how much money is coming in. And people do side jobs and look at their own talent and start selling and starting up their own online business and little side businesses. I mean, people do incredibly well. And you must have heard this a lot of the times. People's little side business turn out to be their main business, and they can forego their job. What a fantastic way of just focusing on the income side of the balance sheet. Okay, so we've got that budgeting and savings under control. That's the first tier. We get to the next tier is never get in debt. So I said the debt is like the Terminator. It just doesn't give up ever. So don't ever get into it. Now, potentially that's unrealistic. Maybe you're already in debt. Well, then you've got to get out of debt, and you have to have a plan to get out of debt. This is very important. Debt is terminal for a budget. Debt is terminal for your investment needs. Now, I say slightly, put two types of debt aside on this, and that is a debt that is for your mortgage and a debt that is your HECS. The reason is because debt for mortgages are very low. They are above inflation, but you can get some very good rates on your mortgages, and HECS is inflation.
It's just indexed.
It's just inflation. So is that a big deal? No, but I still say pay them off when you get a chance, particularly your mortgage. You want to see somebody who's happy, talk to somebody who's paid off their mortgage. You're going to see a very happy individual. And after all, what are we here on earth to be, right? Happy individuals. Now, when you get your bills coming in, so we got that. So now another good belts and braces is pay off everything you owe on time. Now, I know that I help people with their finances. The amount of time I've got people that have got really good finances, excellent income, right? But they've got a very bad debt structure, and I want to help them restructure it. But guess what? I can't. Why? Well, I struggle. I always find a way, but what makes it difficult is because they keep forgetting to pay their bills. And this keeps showing up on their credit scores because their credit scores are showing late payments, and late payments are a sign that you're under distress. And that's what a credit agency will think, and that's what a bank will think, is that you're under distress. And they won't think you're lazy. They will think you're under distress. And so just get your act together, pay off everything.
And sometimes they even whack on extra fees, like if you don't pay it to a certain extent. And so
the cost for doing it is ridiculous.
You're just giving money away.
And just think about that. The person, if you want to give money away, who would be the person or the group of people you least want to give it to? And that's a bank. So don't give money to the bank. They've got plenty. Keep a great credit score. We've done this when we talked about, we've covered this, Tim, when we talked about housing and how to look at housing prices. You can get a credit score from various agencies for free once a year. Check it out. Make sure it's in pristine shape. If it's not, get it sorted and work on it. A great credit score is very good for you. Cheap credit will be available to you. Quick credit will be available to you. Hopefully you'll never use it, but you'll never have to. But keep a great credit score. And that's why the next point is hunt for a better deal. There's always a better deal. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go insane about this, but get used to haggling. Get used to just asking for a bit more. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can look for in common for very successful business people. And what you do find is very successful business people really haggle. They argue for everything.
Yeah, they're not very agreeable.
They're not very agreeable when it comes to doing deals. Yes, they're not very agreeable. They will, and you look, you don't have to be like that, but you have to train yourself. I have to do this personally. I'm an agreeable type of guy. I go, just couldn't be bothered. So I force myself to have that first challenge.
It's a predictor for just career success, not only financial success.
An independent predictor.
Yeah.
Just go for it. Just say it. Force yourself. Try it. I think, another line of success is getting out of your comfort zone. Okay, so hunt for a better deal. Next is invest in yourself first, right? Now, we talks about investing, and often I get asked this, well, where should I invest? And my sort of trite answer, but it's actually true, is invest in yourself first. And I mean, there are many ways to invest in yourself, of course, but my advice always is communication, ability to communicate. There are a lot of really good courses out there. Public speaking, ability to talk in public. Tim, I'm a member of Toastmasters. Toastmasters cost about $200 a year. And to me, a couple of years in Toastmasters is equivalent to a college degree. You will become a very good communicator with 2 years in Toastmasters alone. So invest in yourself first. It's very important. Invest in your career, which again is investing in yourself, but make yourself more marketable. Think about what talents you need to develop. Walk up to your boss and say, what do I need to know? Don't assume. We assume so much. Get it out of his mouth. He'll tell you. Bet you 100% it's not what you're thinking, or there'll be some aspects of what he tells you you might be surprised about. So invest in your career. And then after you're invested in yourself, you're invested in your career, then invest regularly in the stock market. Okay? So invest regularly on a regular basis and use the powers of compounding and dollar cost averaging. And when you are earning money, start thinking about separating it into different accounts, not just one lump account, because that's the perfect way to confuse your finances, confuse you, make life just very, very difficult. And we don't have to. In today's electronic age, very simple. So have 4 accounts, 4 very simple accounts. Have an everyday account, have a savings account, have an emergency account, and have an investment account. So everyday account, hopefully you've automated everything, goes straight in to pay all the bills that you need. Your savings account is where you're going to have some fun, usually, but you need a little bit of savings always. Emergency account, I think this is incredibly important and very, very underestimated, is to have a pool of money. And most of us, the vast majority of Australians and US citizens go without being able to survive a week. Forget a month, a week without getting that next paycheck. Actually, most people are behind. So not even making it on their paycheck. So just imagine, for the audience, imagine sitting back and knowing you had 6 months to 12 months. So personally, I always wanted 12 months. So if the worst of the worst, you can survive 12 months minimum. Now forget about what it does for you, but for the mental clarity and the mental safety and the mental comfort that brings to you, it's unbelievable. Versus I won't last a week. So emergency accounts are very important.
You started off with something like a tax return. Like you start off with a larger lump sum, and then it becomes easier to start building that up as well.
Absolutely. There are a lot of ways to grab that money. It's
really hard to feel like you're safe with an emergency account if you're just starting it off with 5% or 10% of your wage per week.
Yeah. But I just think it's really important. Really important. I think regularly paying into an emergency account up to a point. So usually once you know the point, let's say you say 6 months, I want 6 months of money. Well, then when you go over spill over that, it just spills into an investment account.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be wasting your money just sitting in a savings account. Let the bank make use of it.
I said cash is the worst investment with a little asterisk next to it. I think it's a worst investment, but with exceptions of patience and for your own mental comfort.
Yeah.
And I think emergency is that.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, thank you for coming in today, Paul. It seems definitely a lot clearer to be a master of my money.
Great, Tim.
Paul Street Journal.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.